afternoon, everyone, and welcome to What the Why with Barbara Ann. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or maybe you feel stuck and want to get unstuck in your business, job, or life. All of our guests have something in common with you. At some point in their lives, they felt similarly, and today is no exception, with a slight twist. Please join me in welcoming our guest, Dr. Sabrina McQueen-Johnson, published author, educator, and member of the Long COVID Alliance. Dr. Johnson is a wife, mother, and retired educator with over 26 years of experience as a teacher, specialist, and principal. She's the author of the recently published Somebody Prayed for Me, How I Survived COVID-19 with the Power of Prayer. In her first published work, Dr. Johnson details her lengthy battle with COVID-19 and her journey towards recovery. She aims to educate rural and underserved populations about long COVID, who are often less informed about it, how it happens, its lingering effects, and more. In the process, Dr. Johnson shares her personal story about COVID and how her faith and prayer helped her to survive. Dr. Johnson is a native of Montgomery, Alabama. After graduating high school, she attended Troy State University, earning both her bachelor's and master's degrees. She then taught English for over 10 years before going into school administration. During that portion of her journey, she attended Alabama State University, earning her doctoral degree in education leadership, education policy, and law. She retired in December 2021 because of the lingering effects of COVID-19, and she's become a patient advocate for people whose lives have been affected by long COVID. She serves as a member of the Long COVID Alliance and as a member of several online long COVID support groups to bring awareness to the public about long COVID. Dr. Johnson recently hosted a virtual Long COVID Awareness Day panel discussion event with a physical therapist, respiratory therapist, and a mental health nurse practitioner to shed light on long COVID and the healthcare system. I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Johnson when she briefly presented about her journey and book during the March 2023 Long COVID Alliance meeting, and I'm thrilled she's joining us today from Alabama. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming via Zoom Dr. Sabrina McQueen-Johnson. So, yay! Round of applause. So, thank you so much for taking time and joining us. For our audience, I've been very open about the fact that I too have been dealing with long COVID since March of 2020, and your journey was particularly compelling. So I'm really excited that you decided to reach out and share about your journey and your book with us. But before we get started, one of the only questions I ask every guest who comes on the show is, what did young pre-Dr. Sabrina McQueen want to be when she was growing up?
It's funny, you're not going to believe this. First of all, thank you for having me on your platform today. But growing up, I wanted to be a news journalist.
Oh,
yes. My undergraduate degree is broadcast journalism.
Wow, okay. So how did you go from broadcast journalism to education administration?
During the time when I was interning and completing my degree, I had started a master's degree program, you know, that security career, education, be a teacher, had friends who were educators. And I started out working in my local television station in the production part of the morning television show. And while I was working there, someone came by and said, hey, they're starting a vocational program at a high school and they need someone to teach television production. And they had actually asked a coworker, and he was like, no, I'm not interested. But Sabrina is getting a degree, a master's degree in education. So it worked out. I was able to teach students television production and TV media as a high school teacher. And that started my journey into public education. And the rest is history. I started it and I loved it.
Wow. So, so you taught the industry that you were working in, and then you eventually migrated where you really kind of focused on English.
Yes, the program was part of a vocational education, which is now career technical education program. And all schools did not have that type of program. Media equipment was expensive, so a lot of schools could not fund it. So as my husband and I moved to another school district, they did not have it, but English was already a minor, and I was getting my master's in English language arts. So I kind of started teaching English in speech classes because programs like TV production was not available at other high schools. So I started teaching English, and of course I love that as well. And went on to complete certification in school leadership and administration, and became a school principal eventually.
Okay. So you made that leap from teacher to administration,
Yes,
where you served, and then COVID hits.
yes, ma'am.
Talk to me about what that was like for you. I mean, because you're yourself an individual, but you've got this school, and now we
Right.
have the, the first.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I was a principal at the time at our local alternative high school in my district here in Montgomery. And of course, the world shut down and our students were sent home. We were sent home. Teachers were brought back, and that started the whole remote learning or virtual learning process for teachers and for parents, for students, for everybody. So it was a big change and transition to what traditional education was at the time. Eventually, we went into the summer, and the districts were trying to prepare school administrators around the country and school districts how to handle COVID-19. And in my local district, our students did not come back immediately in August. We maintained a virtual platform. But as a school leader, I was very overprotective of my staff. My husband is a teacher and coach, and my son was, of course, in the local school district as well. So each of us was going to three different school locations, and then my child was at home learning virtually. So we were very vested in being safe at home and at work as it related to COVID. So by the middle or end of the first 9 weeks, my district decided, hey, we're going to bring students back in October. And I think they may have come back on maybe October 6th. It was within the first week or two of October. And by November 8th, my husband and I both were diagnosed with COVID-19.
Wow.
So I was kind of one of those people that was cleaning, wiping, always wearing my mask because I did have a pre-existing condition. So I was very shocked, to say the least, to get diagnosed.
So you're in Alabama, and COVID strikes, and yeah, it's interesting because I'm here on the East Coast. The different areas of the country handled things differently, and we continued to be. A lot of our schools were mixed. Some reopened, some continued to be remote, far beyond. You both got COVID within weeks of returning. It sounds like, well, let me ask you this. You have long COVID. How's your husband doing with it?
My husband is fine. Initially, he just had a constant fever, some headaches, and he kind of bounced back. He stayed positive for a while, but he's fine.
Okay. And then there was you. And this was the case in my household too. My son, the one person you would have thought would have been most affected, fine. Multiple infections,
Right.
no lingering results. My situation, very, very different. My husband's somewhere in the middle. Even my son's girlfriend, very different than what my son. And so your husband recuperates, he's fine, and you get hit with it full on. What was your experience in terms of how it impacted you in that time?
We were tested on November the 8th, and by November the 11th, I was going to the emergency room at the recommendation of my family and friends of mine who worked in the medical field, because my oxygen level began to drop. And so, of course, once I was there, I was diagnosed with pneumonia. And I've heard about pneumonia, but I had never had it. I was like, okay, I'll be fine in a few days. Few days turned into a few weeks. They wanted to send me home. The first day I was back in a couple of hours. So I kind of had the same bed when I went back. And then after about 3 weeks, they said, okay, we're going to send you home with a little oxygen. You know, you should be fine. I was back probably within 2 or 3 days of that time. So I could never get past breathing on my own successfully. So I was very, very weak at the time in the hospital, struggling to breathe. I made it all the way to what they would call a BiPAP machine to try to assist heavy flow oxygen, too weak to move around. So they were concerned about fluid on my lungs and my heart, concerned about blood clots. So it really hit me bad because I did have the pre-existing condition of being a diabetic. There were concerns about my kidneys. However, it was the lungs that were really hit bad. And of course, there were other diagnoses that came along with my COVID journey, such as congestive heart failure at the time that I was in the hospital.
So that's a lot to absorb, and yet you didn't just absorb, you took it head on in faith. And believe it or not, it's already time for a commercial break, so please come back after this brief commercial break to hear more from Dr. Johnson and how she continued her journey and turned trauma into triumph. Welcome back to What the Why with your host Barbara Ann and today's very special guest, Dr. Sabrina McQueen-Johnson. Before we went to break, Dr. Johnson was telling us about, how her hospitalizations continued and continued and continued with long COVID and pneumonia and other diagnoses. And these are things that could destroy anyone. And yet they didn't destroy her. So, Dr. Johnson, I'm sure there were times that you really just kind of prayed and thought, what am I going to do about this? And you never gave up. So what kept you going?
Well, it was my faith and just everybody praying for me. That was the biggest thing, was prayer. I knew I had to fight to survive, and it was prayer. Mentally, I was defeated. While I was in the hospital, there were about 6 people closely connected to me and my husband and my family that passed away. The one that impacted me the most was New Year's Eve, when my mother-in-law passed away from COVID-19 in another city in the hospital. So it was just prayer. It was the power of prayer which led me to write my book, Somebody Prayed for Me, How I Survived COVID-19. Mentally and physically, you're exhausted and going through a battle like I did with COVID. And family members, prayer groups, prayer circles, people near and far were praying on my behalf, sending text messages, videos. It was just awesome to see the hand of God at work in my life during that time.
And right now we're seeing pictures of you with your book. I love the yellow. um, and I love the fact that you chose the butterfly, because it is, in essence, for those who've been through something like this, it is a rebirth. You mentioned that you lost some folks that were really close to you. That must have been really hard as well. I know other long COVID survivors have expressed almost a level of survivor's guilt, especially when others that they knew or developed relationships as part of the long COVID experience lose their battle.
Yeah. Yes, I certainly experienced that. Um, just the first time a coworker, he had been hospitalized at the same hospital I was in, excuse me, and he was there, came in like on a Wednesday or Thursday, and by that Sunday he had passed. And I remember not sleeping in my bed for like 2 nights, just out of grief and the survivor's remorse of, he was here a short period of time and didn't make it, and I'm still here. God has allowed me to still be here, and I was sad for living, just because of all of the deaths that were going on, and here I am still battling this vicious disease. So, through therapy, through counseling, through prayer, I've been able to gain my voice and my strength back, almost 3 years later, because it took a toll on my mental health as well as my physical health. And survivor's remorse was one of the things that I went through as a long COVID patient.
So let's talk about your book. You decided to write a book about, how you made it through prayer, but it's not having had the opportunity to read it because it's so brand new. Talk to us a little bit about how you are encouraging others, because you're right. Obviously, you have a purpose. You're still meant to be here to tell this story and help uplift others. So if you could share some insight into the theme of the book and any advice that you can give to somebody who's going through this or maybe has a loved one who's going through this.
Yes, the book was just really, God spoke to me clearly and said, you need to write this down, document it. And I started putting notes in my phone from the hospital bed, taking pictures of my body because it was changing so fast each day. And I didn't know that this was going to be the book that I said I was going to be an author. I didn't know this would be the book. And going through that process, I knew that I was here because somebody had prayed for me. And so I detail my journey. I give specifics about COVID-19, the physical aspects of it, the healthcare needs, the healthcare issues that we dealt with during the pandemic. I also look at the disparities in our healthcare system for minorities during this time, and just basically bringing awareness to what this disease can do, what having issues, healthcare issues, and not being prepared for a pandemic. So I take people through my journey of physical health and mental health, but I also take them through my spiritual journey, like you mentioned, the butterfly, the rebirth and transformation, and giving myself the opportunity to live again, is how I put it, and reconnect with your faith, because we don't know when the next issue will come.
Yeah.
And it's not just about COVID. Anything in life, you have to have the faith and perseverance to get through. And my vehicle or weapon of choice in getting through was prayer.
And know you're passionate about reaching out to underrepresented populations, and especially in rural areas where there may not be access to health care. What's, I guess, one or two key pieces of information that you would like folks that maybe are in areas where they do have access issues to know?
Right. One of the key things that I want people to do in reading the book is to make sure that you have a healthcare advocate. Throughout my book, it was just really God that I took my cell phone to the hospital and we were able to duo, my family, my husband, my son, my sisters, and keep connected of what was going on with me each day. When I was in the hospital, it was during the time you could not have visitors.
Yeah.
So no one could come see me. So that was the only outside connection I had. And we decided to get duo on our phones to FaceTime each other. And so that allowed me to duo with them in FaceTime when doctors came in, when nurses came in, and they were able to ask questions because physically and mentally I could not communicate and process it. I was so weak. So in those rural areas, get you a healthcare advocate, family member, community member, take somebody to the doctor with you, know what's going on. Also, be firm about what is going on with you. I experienced this in going to a doctor early on after I got out of the hospital, and he dismissed my symptoms as, oh, you're just depressed. You just need to deal with the anxiety before we can deal with the physical. And I knew that I was not feeling the way that I should at that point in my recovery. And so I did change doctors. Don't stay with the healthcare professional that is not meeting your needs. COVID made us more aware of how our healthcare system can be broken, basically just because they're overwhelmed. And I applaud those first line responders. So if you're in those rural areas, don't settle because you're in that community.
Yep. And excellent words. Believe it or not, we're at time. And thank you so much for coming here via Zoom, telling your story. Where can people get your book?
Okay, you can visit my website at www.sabrinajohnson.com. It has been published by Zulon Press as well. So if you visit either of those, you can get a copy of Somebody Prayed for Me, How I Survived COVID-19 with the Power of Prayer.
Awesome. Thank you again for joining us and sharing your inspiring story, and also encouraging other people to trust themselves and to move on when they're not getting the kind of care and advice that they really need.
Yes.
So,
thank you.
My pleasure. So, regarding future guests, our next episode will feature John McKay, founder and CEO of Life Outside the Streets, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to treat trauma through arts, education, entertainment, and information. Please believe me when I say you really don't want to miss what John or any of our future guests have to say about their journeys. If you've missed any of our past guests and you want to check out what they had to say, you can also catch all of Season 1 on demand, as well as Season 2 to date on demand on the What the Why page of RVN Television's website, as well as on Roku and other platforms. You have so many viewing choices these days. Thank you very much for watching our show, and please tell a friend or colleague about us. As a reminder, What the Why airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and Mondays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It is also available on demand within 48 to 72 hours of its initial airing on RVN Television On Demand website platform, as well as other platforms mentioned. And also, please remember, whether you're looking to make any changes in your life, career, or company, no matter how big or small, please join us again for more informational and inspiring conversations with guests such as Dr. Johnson, who overcame some significant challenges that lay in her path to find her new purpose and move forward with purpose and live it.